Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 342. My name is John Morgan. Cold Coffee is not with me today. How do we put this? We'll just lay it out there. It is, while we're both in Las Vegas right now, it is the 1-year anniversary of a very sad and upsetting and emotional event for our man Cold Coffee, and we'll just leave it at that. He requested to take a couple days off to kind of be alone and spend some time with himself and process his thoughts, which we can certainly understand. So I'm sure any of you guys that are out there in touch with Cold Coffee want to send him a little emotional support. I'm sure that he would be appreciative of that. He is volunteered to go ahead and produce the show and edit it all together once we get done, but he just wasn't in a great mood for chatting, which I completely understand. So thoughts to our man Cold Coffee, and he'll join us again next week, of course. But for now, it's me. You got me, John Morgan. I mean, it's the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan. I'm not going to leave you hanging. 342 consecutive weeks, you know we're delivering. And you know we're going to deliver when it's October, my favorite month of the year here in Las Vegas. I know you don't want the weather report right now, but I don't care. I'm giving it to you anyway. It's 70 degrees outside. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'm telling you, April or October. If you're coming to Las Vegas and you can do it during these months, do it, man. This is my favorite month of the fall. It's absolutely beautiful. Going to head over to soccer practice with my son here in a little bit, you know, with a little chill in the air. Can't beat it, man. I mean, I like the summers here, but 115 gets a little rough like we were doing in summer camp this year. So nice 70 degrees. It'll be all right. So always, if you can make it in April, October, do it in Las Vegas. It's been busy, man. Things just stay busy, man. I will say one more little side personal note. My son, speaking of soccer, did get his first ever lifetime goal in his game this past Friday. So that was awesome, man. He hadn't scored to that point. That was his first goal. And it was a special moment. I was a proud pop out there, man. You could see the joy on his face as well. The joy on his face was twofold. Number one, because he hadn't scored yet. He wanted to know that feeling of scoring. And anybody that's played soccer knows that feeling is a good feeling. But also because his mom had promised him V-Bucks. That's right. We are bribing our son for athletic performance with Fortnite gifts. So I think he was happy to have scored a goal and to know that feeling, but happy to know he was coming home to some V-Bucks as well. So anyway, proud little family moment there. It was nice, man. There's nothing better than seeing that joy on your kid's face, man. I did see Eddie Baracco out there as well, noted coach out here in the Las Vegas area, and he was actually on the field right next to me. And was there watching his kid. Man, something I hadn't thought about, and this is something I just want to share. It's kind of a personal thing, but you know, I was telling him that I had to miss a couple games for travel. It was actually his first game that he had been able to go to this year, which I think we were in like week 4 last week, and he had only been able to go to that one game because on Friday nights the coaches and the staffs and the cornermen are still being quarantined, which to be honest, I think I'd kind of forgotten about. Even if you're local, you know, you got to quarantine, and if you're part of the corners of these fight events at the UFC Apex. So, you know, while media, we've kind of gotten our lives back in terms of not having to go test every week and not having to go quarantine like we were doing it. These corners are still having to do that. So, man, shout out to these coaches that are in, you know, corners all the time, because they're still having to go do that on Friday nights and giving up their, you know, I guess if you're traveling in, you were going to stay in a hotel anyway. But if you're one of these Las Vegas-based coaches, you know, you got to give up your Friday night with your family to go be with your team, man. So, I don't know. It just kind of made me think, like, damn, I didn't realize you guys were still doing that. So, got to do that last Friday. And, of course, last Saturday was UFC Fight Night 194. Thought it was a fun card. Of course, we broke it all down on the and a half episode over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. But, you know, the only note I'll share with you here is man, I hope somebody can talk Joanna and Jacek into taking this fight. I've been told behind the scenes that she basically it's it's title fight or bust for her right now. That she's doing okay financially and not really in a big hurry to fight. She's got businesses and a load of fame over in her native Poland that kind of allows her to just do what she wants to do. And right now, she doesn't want to take just any fight. She wants to fight for titles, and totally understand that. Totally respect that, man. I'm a huge Joanna Jędrzejczyk fan. I used to love interviewing her and her intensity and her fighting style and everything about it. So I'm not sitting back here trying to take a pot shot at Joanna Jędrzejczyk saying she's not fighting. But, man, if there was ever a fight that I would hope would excite her, it would be Marina Rodriguez in the style, that's not a championship fight. Because, and listen, Marina is so respectful and she's not a trash talker. So, the most she could come out and say is, well, I don't know if she should still have that ranking. She hasn't fought in a long time. And that's about like the most you're ever going to get out of trash talk out of Marina Rodriguez. But at least she's mentioned it. Stirs the pot just a little bit, right? Gets people thinking, Joanna, hey, do you need to come back and protect what's yours, defend the fact that you're, this ranking is yours. But, I mean, stylistically, I just think a fight between those two would be so phenomenal. And I always have thought that, but they were so far apart in the rankings. I'm like, well, how's Marina Rodriguez going to get the attention of Joanna Jędrzejczyk? Well, now she's winning UFC main events, and now she's on the cusp of a title shot. Now maybe she's taking that title opportunity away from you, Joanna Jędrzejczyk. So do you want to get in there and defend that and prove that you're still the one that deserves that ranking and deserves that discussion? So stylistically, I think that's the most fun fight in the division for Marina Rodriguez. So I do hope that fight happens. I'm not especially optimistic that it will, but I'd love to see it happen for sure. So anyway, just kind of the main takeaway there from that fight. And of course, like I said, if you want to hear the full breakdown of everything, head on over to patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. We do that every single week for as little as $3 a month worth of support, helping out the show. We talk about and wrap up every event. There was one thing I think I kind of forgot to mention when I was doing the wrap up, was that the crowd in the fight during Randy Brown's fight, I think by the third round, and I don't know if something was said in between rounds or because Randy was on the side of the audience that started reacting. I don't know if it was his family or his supporters or what, but at some point they figured out what was happening when he stepped on his foot to get the thing back in place, and every time he would do it, you'd hear this, oh, like everybody grossing out. So I thought that was pretty funny to see that. I don't know if the audio could pick up on that on the broadcast, but it was pretty damn funny. So that was the weekend, and of course, then we jump right into it, man. This is dual event week every week here in Las Vegas. We're up at the UFC Apex 4 days a week, man. And of course, Dana White's Contender Series 43 was this past weekend, or this past Tuesday, I should say. So earlier this week, yeah, it all runs together. It wasn't a weekend; it was a Tuesday, just like it is every Tuesday. But Dana White's Contender Series 43, by the way, another CFFC vet in the main event, Christian Rodriguez. We got another one next week, too. But CFF, I love it. Cage Fury Fighting Championships. There's nothing I like better than calling their fights and watch these fighters go to the next level, man. It's awesome. But Christian Rodriguez did pick up the unanimous decision win over Reyes Cortez. Of course, Christian Rodriguez had missed weight, didn't get the contract. And I'm going to be honest with you. I'm kind of okay with that. And I hope you guys saw the outpouring of support for Christian from the Rufus Sport crew, man. I saw it seemed like everybody, every last one of them on Twitter saying, you got to take this guy. You got to take this guy. I had heard a lot about Christian, besides seeing him fight, from CM Punk. CM Punk, of course, trains at Rufus Sport as well. And, we would talk about him quite a bit. And, he said Christian, I think, came there when he was like 16 years old. And he's been training there for 7 years. And everybody's so high on the kid, just in terms of being a quality fighter, but also in terms of just being a quality guy as well. Everybody was cheering for him. So, but man, the kid's just 23. He will turn 24 in December, but he's just 23, and I thought he looked great in this fight. But a little bit more seasoning, I don't think hurts. To me, I kind of like around that 10 fight mark. I like that. 10 fights under your belt and get you to the UFC. I think a little bit more experience doesn't hurt. Now, he's been training since he's 16. He's been in a high-level gym. He's seen a lot. So, maybe he would be okay. But I don't hate a little bit more seasoning. And I'm assuming that seasoning will continue to get done under the CFFC banner. So, I look forward to calling a few more of his fights and then seeing him head back to the UFC Apex to fight in the UFC. So, I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. But it was made a little bit more controversial by the Jake Hadley situation, right? Where Jake Hadley misses weight as well, but Dana says, hey, the matchmaker said no, I'm breaking my own rules here, but I see something special in this kid, and I'm bringing him on board anyway. And man, this was just the craziest situation all the way around, because Hadley did miss weight, and so automatically you think maybe he's out, right? But then you hear as well that he's causing a stir behind the scenes, and if Cold Coffee was here to talk about it, I was interested to get his take about that, because him and I had spoken a little bit about it, off air and kind of passing, and I think he feels the same way I do, which is, if you think that Dana White hears about every single little tiny pain in the ass thing that happens behind the scenes, you do not. People do not want to bother Dana with that stuff. So for rumblings of this guy doing some stuff behind the scenes that upset people to make it all the way to Dana, I don't know. And Hadley comes out and says it's a misunderstanding. He doesn't really know exactly what it is. He thinks maybe it's a difference in humor between the Brits and Americans, which there may be a little bit of that here and there every now and then. But I don't know, man. I don't know. And I'm not trying to take shots at Hadley, because to be honest with you, I'm glad they signed him. I think this is a guy that I tend to agree with what Dana's saying as well. I think this kid's got something, man. Cage Warriors champ. We've been watching his rise over there. Dude has got legitimate skills, looked fantastic in the fight. Dana mentioned the ground skills that he showed and the aggression. I mean, I completely agree, man. So I'm happy for Jake Hadley. And talking to the kid afterwards, it's awesome. He's all in on fighting. He's like, dude, I don't know, I quit school because what do I need school for? I don't need any of this stuff. I'm fighting, and if I was born 1,000 years ago, I'd be a gladiator in the Coliseum. And I mean, this dude is all in on fighting. He says, I don't watch TV. I watch fighting. I don't know anything but fighting. You know what I mean? And while I won't say that that's always the healthiest approach to life, it seems to be working for him. So I'm happy the guy's in. But, the weight miss stuff did make it controversial, especially when, you pass on Christian Rodriguez and you say, well, he missed weight. But he's also really young. So it was kind of funny because, we were kind of joking backstage where it's like, I mean, we do realize at this point, like, you can't even sit there and go, well, it's hypocritical. It's hypocritical. There are no rules. It's just Dana making it up. So pretty funny stuff the way that all played out. And to add to it, the great thing was Hadley comes in to start talking to us, and then Chelsea from the UFC's PR department interrupts him during his interview to say, hold on, Dana's going to come in now. So they stop, first time ever, they've stopped somebody, they pull him off stage, and then they bring him back to finish his interview after Dana does, his media interview after Contender Series, because, he wants to get done and go home and all that. So just the whole situation was bizarre. I kind of joked. I was like, man, you have had the weirdest entry to the UFC I've ever seen, and I can't wait to see what weird stuff happens to your career. So, a fun entrance in Jake Hadley. So, but just put it all out there to say that, man, I think Hadley does have something, and I think it's okay that they made an exception here. I get, why somebody else might say, well, you shouldn't do it. But look, at the end of the day, it's Dana's call. And I don't know. I'm happy for the guy. And I'm hoping Christian Rodriguez, gets a few more fights in CFFC and then makes it back. A little bit more seasoning. 23 years old. Nothing wrong with making sure that once you're there, you're there. You know what I mean? That you're not going to just take a couple losses and then you're done. And I'm not saying he would do that, but I don't hate the fact that he's going to get a little extra seasoning, So we'll see how it all plays out. Now, I was going to, had Cold Coffee not needed a couple days off to himself. Which, by the way, if you're going to watch the weigh-ins Friday morning, I probably won't be able to chat much because I'm going to be doing video and photos as well. So Cold Coffee's taking Friday off as well. So I will do my best to chat. If you're one of those that joins us in the chat every Friday for the weigh-ins, which is always fun, I'll do my best. But I'm actually, I'll be honest with you, I'm a little bit nervous. We used to just stream from, when I was streaming from my iPhone, which doesn't look great, but we've kind of stepped it up a little bit, right? But it involves using some new gear that I've only used once. It was in Houston, if you remember that pay-per-view, where I was having all kinds of technical difficulties, and it was stressful, and I was getting equipment shipped to our hotel room that I thought that I didn't know we needed, and I don't know. So I'll be honest with you, as I sit here right now, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm gonna try to get a good night's sleep tonight, make sure I'm fresh and I'm on top of it tomorrow. So just be prepared for that. But anyway, I say all that because if he had been here, I was definitely going to open the show with like just saying, just doing a little intro and then maybe kind of laying out and seeing what Cold Coffee does. And then I was just going to bust his balls and be like, oh, I thought you might want to repeat what I just said word for word. Because if you were watching the Dana White's Contender Series media scrum with Dana White afterwards, Cold Coffee got burned a little bit. So I'll play that here because I think it's funny. Then I'll share with you a little bit about the backstory of this. But I thought this moment was pretty funny. And basically it was, obviously we asked about several things. I asked Dana, a couple different topics. But one topic I had to get to was Ladd and the controversy about her headlining this week. And so that was the question that ended up playing a part in this Dana White roasting. So here's how it went down.
And two last ones for me. I want to ask you about the main event this week. You talk about missing weight. Aspen Ladd, of course, missed weight. Now she's headlining a show, clearly moving up a weight class, which it seems like she needs to do. But there's a lot of people that are saying, what are you doing? You're rewarding this girl that missed weight by giving her a main event. So how do you look at the main event this weekend?
Yeah, we'd be rewarding her if she was fighting at 35. I mean, she's fighting at 45. She's moving up a weight class, which is what she needs to do. The girl's ready to fight. She's got to fight. She's obviously talented. She's one of the most talented, girls in the world. So, yeah.
Okay, so that was my question, at least the question about Aspen Ladd, of course. A question that had to be asked, right? I mean, we had to get into it. Now, some time goes on. Oscar Willis, our man Hot T from the Mac Life, he asked a couple questions as well. Okay, time flies by. Then Cold Coffee picks up the reins. He's become, as we know, more of a reporter. I mean, he's in these scrums. He's not just filming them anymore. He's actually taking part in these media sessions. And he asked a couple questions as well, and he wraps it up like this.
And last for me, a lot of people were surprised with the rebooking of Aspen Ladd to fill for this card, where a lot of people almost felt like it was rewarding her after the weight miss and that fight sort of falling out. What was the reasoning behind putting her into this fight with Demont?
You know that you just asked me verbatim the same exact question that he did.
Did you ask that?
Literally.
No, he did.
Like he gave you the question to ask again because he didn't like the answer that I gave him.
Let's try again then.
Is that what happened there? Verbatim, the same question. You might want to rewind your camera there and listen to what I said. We're not rewarding her. She's moving up in weight class. She's moving up to 45. If we kept her at 35 and gave her a main event, that would make sense. The girl's in shape. She's here to fight. She didn't make weight, but she's going to move up a weight class now. So, I don't think we're rewarding her, but we're getting her a fight.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I think it was slightly different than his.
Are you going to ask me the same question now?
Come on. It was funny. And I'm not sitting. Fortunately, Cold Coffee was a good sport about it. I mean, look, we all kind of take turns, having Dana kind of poke fun at us. What was it, 2 weeks ago? It was do you think I should book that fight? I'm asking you, do you think I should book that fight? You know what I mean? He's having a little fun. I thought this was funny. I'm sure, I don't think Cold Coffee, even if he's here, would mind me playing that up. Now, I will say that I'm going to take a little bit of responsibility for it because Cold Coffee turns around to me at one point while Oscar is speaking to Dana White, and he just kind of whispers, and I don't hear exactly how he phrased it, but I just heard something about ask why they booked Aspen Ladd again so quickly. And I thought, well, that's a pretty good follow-up question, right? Because I just asked, is it a reward, right? That's what I asked. But to ask, hey, man, if he'd have followed up and said, medically, weren't you a little bit worried about her? Weren't you a little concerned? I don't think that's a bad follow-up question, right? And I think Dana would have been forced to answer it a little bit. But I'm going to be honest with you. Since I got this tinnitus in my ear, and especially when I'm leaving after fights. So loud, like obviously the loud music that they play in the Apex, it makes the ringing in my ears worse. So when I come back to the press room, it's pretty loud in my ears. So I can't hear. I'm just to be honest, I can't hear very well. Like, you know how you see Dana up there cupping his hand around his ears because he's gone deaf over the years with his Meniere's disease. I'm not gonna say I don't think I have what he has, but I'm starting to understand that because like I can't hear anything. So Cold Coffee's whispering to me, and I can barely hear what he said. And so maybe I could have saved. I think maybe he was just asking if I had asked anything about Aspen Ladd. I guess maybe he was editing something else when I was talking, so he wasn't really paying attention. So I was just like, yeah. That's good. That's why I told Cold Coffee, and then he asked the question. So I take some responsibility and blame for him getting roasted. But I think he would have gotten away with it if he hadn't used the word reward. I just think as soon as he used reward, Dana kind of keyed in on that, and then the rest is history. But I thought it was pretty funny anyway. It was a good moment. All right, UFC Fight Night 195 is this week. Cold Coffee will be there on Fight Night. So on Fight Night, I will be cage side covering that, and he will be in the press room helping to interview the winners. And then, of course, I'll do the and a half episode over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Aspen Ladd and Norma Dumont are in the main event. I've seen the feedback, and I understand the feedback. Some frustration that Aspen Ladd is being quote unquote rewarded for this, after missing weight with this opportunity. And I see it. I do see it. I completely understand. As far as the fight itself, I want you to know I went ahead and picked Aspen Ladd in my staff picks this week. I am a firm believer in her skills and her quality, and I believe she has what it takes to beat Norma Dumont. And I'm not saying that Norma doesn't have an ability to win. She certainly does, especially if Aspen Ladd is not at 100% for whatever reason. But even though we're moving up to 145 pounds, I will say if you look at the tail of the tape, and this is provided by the UFC, so I'm assuming it's accurate, but Norma Dumont at 5'7", Aspen Ladd at 5'6". So even though Aspen Ladd strikes me as kind of when I think of her in my head, I think of her as kind of a smaller, more compact fighter. Norma Dumont, even at 145, is not that much bigger. I also look at the reach, and you would think, okay, well, you're moving up a weight class, is reach going to be an issue? And the UFC has Dumont listed at 67 inches to Aspen Ladd 66. So not terrible. By the way, striking accuracy over a career. Now, striking accuracy might be a little bit of this might be a statistics that doesn't really tell the tale, because a lot of Aspen Ladd strikes are taking place in ground and pound, right? I mean, she's on top of you landing. But if you look at it, striking accuracy, 55.3% for Ladd, 53.5% for Dumont. So it's actually Ladd with the higher striking percentage and a higher rate of strikes landed per minute, 5.22 at 4.98. Again, that might be one of those statistics that's a little bit skewed because of where the strikes are taking place. They just give us the very base statistical analysis, not strikes at range, strikes at whatever. So I don't have those stats available to me, but we'll see. But I went with Aspen Ladd. But listen, I understand the controversy behind Aspen Ladd. She missed weight. Accusations of cheating. I don't want to call her. I like Aspen Ladd a lot, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, she absolutely cheated. I will say it's weird. I think that she weighed in the first time with all her clothes on. I don't understand that. If you knew you were close, under what premise would you go, but I bet if I weigh in with all my clothes on, I'll be fine. So that was weird to me. And I don't know if that was just her in a state of mind at that point, like she was so out of it at that point that she doesn't even know what she's doing. I don't know. But so I don't think that helps her case. And again, I like Aspen Ladd. I take her at face value. I'm not calling her a cheater. I'm just saying if you're looking objectively at everything in front of you, that's weird, right? When has anybody weighed in with all their clothes on unless they were a heavyweight that walks around at like 235, And even then, Arlovsky will do that sometimes. He'll weigh in all his clothes. So I don't, and especially if you're close, why would you even step on the scale with all your clothes on? Like, what's the point of that? Unless, again, she was so out of it that maybe she didn't really know what she was doing. Okay, so I'll throw that out there. It's weird. But, Miesha Tate went hard on her. Miesha Tate went hard on her, man. And it's funny. I saw Misha Tate at that comedy show that we went to a couple weeks back, and I was talking to her about it. I was like, "Wow, man, that's not normally you." And she's like, "Wow, hey, that's the way I feel." That's so. I can't say no. Now you got the situation where she couldn't hold her arms up. Could she or couldn't she? I'm certainly hell not going to say that. I mean, she has looked terrible on the scales a couple of times, and this is one of them. Now, I wasn't there in person. I was watching on a stream. I was actually in an airplane during the weigh-ins. But that beautiful 4K stream that Cold Coffee was showing, she did not look good to me. So I wasn't seeing her off camera or anything like that. Like normally I would be able to have a greater sense of everything that was going on at the time. So I don't know. I will say in reaction to that, and I think good on the Nevada Athletic Commission, and hopefully other people adopt this or what have you. But we noticed that in the Contender Series weigh-in this past week, where two guys missed weight, they've asked because look, it looked like Aspen was struggling to keep her hands in the air to me too, right? But we all know what we're trying to do, right? We're trying not to get the Daniel Cormier towel trick, behind. Okay, we all know what it's about. That's why they need to see their hands. But what they did at the Contender Series weigh-ins is they told the fighters they could put their hands on their shoulders, meaning cross your hands in front of your chest. I mean, I guess it'd be bad to say like a body or whatever. I don't know. But I guess maybe like you're going down a water slide. Isn't that what they make you do when you're going down a water slide? You crisscross your hands over your chest, and then you put your hands. So your right hand is on your left shoulder, your left hand is on your right shoulder. I know we're dealing with the audio here, but hopefully that description makes sense. But that way your hands are on your shoulder, and they can see that you're not grabbing anything, but you're also not being asked to hold your hands straight up, which may be a little tough if you're dehydrated, if you're weakened, and of course that scale starts shaking, Again, why we're not using a digital scale, that's an argument for another day, but the scale that we use, that beam scale, it starts shaking a little bit, and once it starts moving, it's kind of hard to sell it because it floats, and it's kind of a weird feeling. Anyway, I just thought that was a nice adjustment. Minor little tweak. Most people probably wouldn't notice it, but a minor little adjustment. So, Aspen Lab. How does she answer to everything? Well, we had a chance to speak to her, and I'm just gonna say, I to be honest with you, I like the way she answered things. I'll let you judge for yourself. Here's Aspen Ladd.
Aspen, I mean, I guess it might be tough to put into words, but the emotional roller coaster that I imagine this has been the last couple of weeks, what's it been like for you?
Well, it's been pretty unreal. Obviously, the last time was pretty terrible. And then coming home from that, I was home for a few days. I was basically disconnected from people, social media, everything. And then I get this call. It's like, well, that was unexpected, but sweet.
I know you took ownership right away. You said, look, I know what's going to happen, but this is just the reality of what it is. People still were not very kind to you. I guess you said you unplugged. Were you surprised at all to get that kind of reaction, or did you just know, like, I know this is exactly what's coming?
No, I knew that was exactly what's coming. Especially with what we do, we're very accessible in the media. And social media-wise, people are always on there. So it's not surprising. When you do well, you do well. And when something bad happens, you get shit on.
What was going through your mind that morning of weigh-ins? I mean, did you know, like, there's just no way this is going to happen? And, I mean, do you have to have those battles? Like, do we keep trying? And, I mean, do we put our health at risk? I mean, what was all that like?
No, we were still trying up until the end. Like 3 hours trying to get the last pound off. Wasn't going to happen. Didn't happen. Went right to weigh-ins from cutting weight and did the best we could.
And I guess to be certain, did the commission rule you ineligible, or did she decline to take the fight?
No, she declined to take the fight. But that's her right.
I was going to say, did that frustrate you at all? I mean, do you feel like that added to what happened? I mean, do you put any of that blame on her?
No, I don't blame the other fighter. I mean, it's in the reverse of the situation, I would have taken it, but that's just because also she's getting a fair chunk of my purse. But everybody reacts things differently and makes their own decisions, and she chose not to fight, and that's, as I said, her right.
Right. So the fans, obviously, they're going to say what they say. You had Misha Tate come out and criticize you pretty hard. I mean, I guess there's some history, and maybe it's all about some matchmaking, especially since she's active. But did that, register on your radar, and what did you make of all that?
A little bit. I respect Misha very much as a fighter, and I've wanted to fight her since she came back. She is probably one of the biggest names in women's MMA besides Ronda and Cyborg. So when she came back, I think all the 35ers wanted a piece of her. And I'm one of them. So I don't know, there's just a thing where somebody else is going through something that's not very pleasant. I'd rather never make them feel worse or comment on it. It's like, why? You're just putting more negativity out there. Other people don't feel that way. So we'll see. Maybe we'll meet down the road.
In her accusation, especially, because it's one thing for people to talk about you missing weight, right? It's another one to maybe call in your character that you're attempting to cheat the system. I mean, did that stand out to you, or what do you say to people that you were trying to cheat somehow?
No, I was dying at the time. Very, very bad all the way around. But I don't know. Everybody's different, man. Everybody thinks their own way and acts their own way, whether it's negative, positive, whatever.
Fair enough. So all that gets over. You get back with the team. At that point, is the decision made like, hey, we're going to 45, or does the UFC call and say, hey, we've got this opportunity at 45? What do you think? How did that play out?
We'd been planning on going to 45 as well as 35, but 45 the last couple of years we've been talking about it, and the UFC was aware of that. Before this last fight, there was talk of doing a 45 fight instead. It was just trying to get through that last one. And is 45 the only weight class? No. It's just going to take me a good long while to do 35 and do it healthy. But no, we've been talking about 45 for a while, and this fight was completely unexpected. Like, they called me on Wednesday.
So it wasn't like you volunteering. It was them reaching out to you and saying, oh, by the way, here's something we got for you.
Yeah, no, heck no. What happened was as soon as Holly fell out, I don't know who they called first. I'm assuming they probably called other people, but Norma's a dangerous opponent. I didn't know anything about her. I didn't know it was 5 rounds. I did not know it was main event. I just knew that Holly fell out and the fight was 45, and I was like, all right, sweet. It feels kind of like fate. Let's do it.
So what happens when they say, oh, by the way, it's 5 rounds, and oh, by the way, it's a main event? Does that, like, intimidate you, or is it crazy? Do you like it? How does that feel?
It's like, well, shit, let's do this. That's honestly, it was exciting.
What have you learned about Norma in the time since? I mean, I'm sure you've probably studied some tape or what. I mean, what do you know now about her?
Heavy striker. She comes to bang. She throws hard. She throws down. And I think this is a potential fight of the night.
But to be clear, you're saying this is not your permanent division. It's going to be your division for a while. You expect to do this for a while, but you do see a return to 35?
I do. We'll talk after this fight with the people that matter about if the next one will be at 35 or 45. But obviously I can take a 45 on a 10-day notice. I can take a 45 on a 6-week notice kind of thing. 35, I cannot. It takes me a long time and has to be exact. So this is just an opportunity for me to fight more and to be more healthy doing it.
And healthy, I think, is the key word, right? So I think people were curious, like, how much would you go up? Like, is this 2 weeks? Has it been 2 more weeks of weight cutting to keep you at 45? Or, I mean, do you feel healthy? What has this time been like?
I'm not cutting weight to make this fight. I've been trying to get to 35 for so long, you get pretty low. And I had not put on much weight by the time they called me for this one. So a couple days of dieting, and no, there's no weight cut involved.
I'm sure you probably haven't paid attention to it, but there are fans that say she doesn't deserve this opportunity. You know, you just missed weight. How can you be in a main event? Have you heard any of that? And if so, I mean, how do you address that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're the ones that are ready to take it. You got to use your brain a little bit there, a little bit of deductive reasoning. After the last one, do you think they called me first? No. They called other people, and it's a dangerous opponent on short notice. Nobody else took it. We did. So we get the opportunity.
Nice. Last thing for me. 45 is an interesting division, right? Because there's not a lot of fighters there. So, I mean, you win here. I mean, we're talking about title discussion, aren't we? I mean, do you feel like, hey, I could go from this into a fight with Amanda Nunes?
The same woman is at the top of both heaps there, and it's the same very dangerous opponent. I don't know. 45 is very interesting because right now there's not much substance. But I think they're about to sign Kayla Harrison. At least they're going to try to. She had her last fight with PFL, and I think they're going to build the division around her. They want new blood and new faces. So I think over the next couple years, featherweight, if that happens, will flesh out pretty good.
I mean, look, there's still going to be people that hate, right? I mean, there's still going to be people that doubt, that are frustrated. And I get it. Look, there's nothing wrong with still saying, okay, I like what she said, but I still think it's wrong. You could do that. I mean, but I think the key, I think she's handling everything right. She's not trying to make excuses. You know, the fact that she's saying I'm still not done at 135, you know, I don't know. Maybe that's one of those things that, you know, it takes time for you to finally admit. I mean, how long did Charles Oliveira tell us that he's a featherweight, right? And then finally it's like, okay, I guess I'll be a lightweight, and now I'm UFC champion. This could be one of those situations where they're going to keep telling you, I still have bantamweight in my future, but somebody just finally realizes, no, this is where you need to be at. So I don't falter for that, but I wish she was just like, no, I'm all in on 145. But listen, the key things to me that stand out there are the fact that, you know, if you're going to be mad at her, she's not the one that volunteered. As she said, they called me. And I know I wasn't option number one, but they called me and I was ready, and that's why I'm getting this opportunity. How can you be mad at that? Now, if you want to be mad at the UFC and say, "Oh, it's disgusting what they did. I can't believe they offered this to her." Oh, okay, that's okay. That's absolutely right. I heard a lot of people say, well, why not Macy Chiasson? Why didn't you give that fight to Macy Chiasson? Why not give her the headlining opportunity? Per my understanding, the thought process was, well, if Macy Chiasson takes this fight, it's meaningless because she wants to go back down to 135. So why are we even doing we got this division at featherweight that everybody says we're not building out. Well, why are we going to give a bantamweight a fight at featherweight just so she can go right back down to bantamweight? With Ladd, we know she needs to go to 145. That's clear at this point. So let's get her introduced to the division and let's get a body that's actually at 145. And so from that perspective, I kind of understand the logic, and I've got to assume they cut a check to Macy Chiasson as well. I've got to assume they cut a check to her. So I'm not mad at the UFC. I'm certainly not mad at Aspen Ladd. I think if you are going to be mad, if you're frustrated about the situation, then you just got to hold it on the UFC. You can't hold it on Aspen Ladd. She just got the call and said, yeah, I'll do it. You know what I mean? I don't think you can blame her for that. So the last little thing I wanted to touch on there was how about that little Kayla Harrison shout out there. Now, no secret that Kayla Harrison's in her last fight on her PFL deal and that she's entering free agency afterwards. We all know that. But I do wonder, is that a situation where Aspen Ladd and her team were just kind of thinking about the possibilities of the future? Or did maybe, as the matchmakers and UFC brass were talking to Ladd's team about the idea, maybe they float out the idea of like, no, we're actually really building out this division. Like we're going to go get Kayla Harrison after this, and that accidentally got leaked out. I don't know which one. Now, listen, I know, whether they'll talk about it publicly or not. I mean, the UFC is clearly aware of who Kayla Harrison is. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure that out. Obviously, the matchmakers, their job is to scout talent, even in other organizations. And, of course, her manager is Ali Abdelaziz, who, represents how many UFC athletes, how many high-level UFC athletes. So, clearly, the UFC is aware of Kayla Harrison, her skills, and that sort of thing. So, I don't know if this is I'm just curious. It may have been nothing. But I wonder, was there maybe some inside information shared back there? We're going to see how that plays out in a couple weeks. Obviously, PFL final at the end of this month. And then we'll see where Kayla Harrison goes from there. I can't falter either way. If the PFL is going to cut some fat checks to keep her right where she's at, good for her. But I sure as heck wouldn't hate seeing her in the UFC because I'm sold on Kayla Harrison, man. I think she's the real deal. All right, listen, the rest of this card, listen, it's another one of those cards. It's not stacked to the gills with huge talent, but there's some intriguing names, right? Two of the all-time, leading vets in appearances, Andre Arlovski and Jim Miller, both in action here in some pretty interesting fights, right? Andre Arlovski faces Carlos Felipe, who was, coming out just calling him out on social media every damn day, and then got the fight. Love to see that, man. You always like a little flavor to it. And Carlos Felipe, by the way, if you didn't see the media, he's got the word brawler tattooed on his cheek now. It's right on his cheekbone. I thought he was coming in with a black eye, and then I looked up there and I was like, oh, that's a tattoo that says brawler. And he was like, he said he got it after his last fight. He said it represents not only his style but also just kind of everything in life. He's brawling with everything. So, all right. But listen, I'm an unabashed Andre Arlovski homer. One of the good guys in the sport, and think about how long he's been doing it, and he's one of the guys I'll readily admit I'm a fan of. So inside, certainly I'll be professional on press row, but I'll be pulling for Andre Arlovski. Jim Miller, another stud. It's just been at it forever. Unbelievable. Facing a newcomer in Eric Gonzalez, which I think is crazy, man. The guy that's done it this many times against a guy that's coming in doing it for the first time, man. That's pretty incredible. At the end of the day, what does experience matter? It's still a fight. Right? A fist landing on a chin doesn't care if you're experienced or not, but it just is intriguing that the type of mental, the mental zone that they'll both be in when they step in there. So that's interesting. Two stud veterans there, and then a fight that I really am looking forward to: Manon Fiorot versus Mayra Bueno Silva. Certainly, man, that's a fantastic fight there. I'd really, I think it's gonna be fun. I think it's gonna be fireworks. I think that Manon Fiorot looks like the real deal. I really do think that she's future championship material. Now, is anybody a future champion while Valentina Shevchenko's there? Maybe not, but I think she's got some real skills, and I look forward to seeing this matchup. I think it's going to be a good one. Scott McCrate, I know, will certainly support me in that one, man. He's a big supporter of Manon Fiorot. So good one. And then it kicks off with Julian Marquez versus Jordan Wright, which I think is going to be a fun fight as well. And I always say I like to share a little audio with people that may be a little under the radar. And I think Jordan Wright is probably on a lot of people's radars by now. He's got a sweet nickname with the Beverly Hills Ninja. He was on the Contender Series, didn't work out, but fought his way back to the UFC. He's had a couple of impressive results, some quick finishes. So he's probably on your radar, but I don't know, man. He came in and I enjoyed hearing from him as well, man. So I thought I'd play a little bit of Jordan Wright. So here was his media day session.
Jordan, obviously an impressive performance last time out. I mean, how important was that for you to kind of bounce back from the first loss and do it in spectacular fashion?
It was awesome. It was incredibly important. I feel like it was. I don't know. I feel like even just this whole process of since before getting signed to the UFC, fighting again for the LFA, it's just been a nonstop process. I never leave the gym. I never stop training. Even when I have injuries, I'm still figuring something else to do. And so it was kind of a good thing after the Buckley loss to show that even something like that, I was back in the gym very shortly after that, still working on new things. And it was just you look at all these old K1 fighters who will fight 20 times a year, who have hundreds of fights. It's just it's just the lifestyle. You lose, you win, you go back into the gym. You want to do your best, you want to get the win, but sometimes it doesn't go your way. So you just keep training and you don't stop.
So obviously the old saying is that you learn more from your losses than your wins. I mean, did you find that to be true, or are you like, I don't need those lessons?
I wouldn't say more or less. I think it just depends on the situation. If a loss truly, a win can expose you as well. But I feel like if you truly get exposed in a certain aspect, or there's a part of your preparation that wasn't perfect, or the weight cut or whatever, it's just another process to learn. I was thinking about that even earlier today when doing a lot of the media stuff. I'm like, this isn't a drag. It was never really a drag, but it's still just more you have to do. But I'm like, no, this is fine. I'm in the moment. This is cool. There are people working their asses off, and having other types of jobs that, wish they could do something like this. So I'm just incredibly fortunate and thankful that I'm able to live the life that I live.
Yeah, great way to look at it. You get the matchup with Julian. Was that an exciting one for you? On paper, it looks like it could be a pretty good fight.
Yeah, absolutely. He's an incredibly tough opponent. He's definitely a big test for me, and I embrace it with open arms. I feel like, it's just a great test and a great way for me to show my skills to the world.
Anything you do unique or different this time around in preparation for this one?
Yeah, we've done a lot of new stuff. A lot of new cool secret stuff that you guys will be able to see on Fight Night.
Ninja stuff, right?
Ninja stuff, always. It's always a secret.
And I guess, you're starting to get a lot of hype around you. I'm starting to see a lot of people really say, man, this guy, even though you just had the loss, a lot of people say this guy's the future. I mean, do you embrace that? Is that a little bit hold on, let me kind of still keep developing in here a little bit? Or do you like the fact that you're getting that attention?
I've said this analogy before, but I really live, it's an old analogy called the analogy of the songbird. And the songbird, one day is just singing a song and a guy comes up to him and says, "Songbird, I hate your song. It keeps me up and it's not even that good." The songbird says, "I don't really care about you. I'm just the songbird. I'm singing my song." 5 minutes later, another guy comes by. "Songbird, I love your song. It's beautiful. It's awesome. It gives me hope and inspiration." Songbird goes, "I don't really care. I'm just the songbird. I'm going to sing my song, and that's what I do." Whether it's hype or negativity, at the end of the day, I kind of live in my own I face my own direction. The praise or the negativity, anything, I just kind of ignore it and listen to my coaches, and I have a close inner circle, and not much gets in between that.
I like that. Look at you dropping wisdom here. You got ninja stuff. You got wise fables to drop to us. I mean, that's great. Well, let me talk about the goal here, because like I said, on paper, it looks like it could be a pretty explosive fight, and obviously you've shown the ability to do that. So do you go in there saying, I want to do something spectacular in this fight, or is that not the way you walk in there?
No, not really. I just kind of go in and I feel in the moment what gets presented to me and the things that I can establish myself. Yeah, even in the last one with Pickett, I was just like, I remember being in there, being like, this is fine. Like, I could go to decision. It doesn't matter. And then he opened up on me, and I was like, all right, well, thank you. I'm gonna take what you're given, and that's what I've been doing my whole career. But yeah, no, I just kind of go in there with a open mind and ready to perform.
Awesome. Last thing for me. Where do you see yourself going from here, man? A win over here, it's kind of a recognizable name. It looks like it'll be an exciting fight one way or the other. So, I mean, are you looking at rankings, opponents, and things like that, or do you worry about that?
There are opponents that I look at, but at the end of the day, I just kind of focus on the now. I try not to get too lost in what could potentially be, or what might this be, or what might that be. I'm just kind of doing my thing. The title is what I want, and I'll do whatever I have to get it.
Go well-spoken, good mood, enthusiastic, and I don't know, man. I like the things he had to say, and I really did like kind of the songbird fable that he had there. I mean, maybe some cliche or whatever, but I just, man, it's really become I think more and more important these days, and with social media and stuff like that, man. To just do your thing, just do it, man. If you are confident in what you're doing, and you feel good about what you're doing, then just do it. You know what I mean? So it is so weird because, man, so many of you guys are so supportive, and I get kind messages all the time on social media, and then you get mean ones too. And I mean, like, really mean ones, like, dude, that's really what you got on your phone today to do, was to try to take a shot at me, some dude you've never even met before? Like, for what? What the hell? And it gets you down sometimes, man. Or at least me personally, it's hard to avoid that stuff, man. And I love little reminders like that. I love little reminders like that. No matter who you are, no matter what you do, there's gonna be some people that love what you do, and there's gonna be some people that hate what you do. But man, if you're confident in what you're doing and you feel it's the best of you and you enjoy it, then the hell with it, man. Just go on and keep singing your song. You know what I'm saying? So. Are we getting deep here? Is that too deep? Are we getting too emotional there? I don't know, man. I like that message. So, listen, that's your main card. Prelims, man. How about Brandon Davis, man? That's a name I'm going to shout out right there. I'm a Brandon Davis fan, and so I'm happy to see him back in the UFC. The dude can scrap. So I'm excited to see that one. Lupi Gardner, how about her coming back a week later, looking to set records, fighting up a weight class after winning last week, got out of there unscathed. From what I understand, actually left Vegas, went to Florida, I think, to start a vacation, and then got the call and came back. She's replacing Sajara Eubanks, taking on Luana Carolina, and looks to become the first UFC fighter to pick up 2 wins in I guess it would be 7 days. Is that 7 days, or is it 8 days? I guess it's 2 wins in 8 days, right? It's got to be 8 days, because, yeah. That is some embarrassing math. Let's pretend that didn't happen. Let's just pretend that, because if it's not 2 wins in 7 days, right? Because a week has 7 days. If you're fighting on Saturday, and then Saturday, that is 7 days later. But you got to count that day for the record. So it would be 2 wins in 8 days. Yes, I've talked myself into it. That's exactly what it is. All right. How about Ludavik Klein versus Nate Landwear as well? That could be a phenomenal fight as well. So, you got the gritty Andrew Sanchez is on there. Ramazan Ami versus Danny Wright. Look, I think it's going to be a fun one again. I think it's going to be an entertaining one. So I think we're good, but I get it. This is not the star-studded one, but I think for the hardcores, like I imagine anyone listening to this is, I think we're going to get another entertaining night. So I look forward to that. Of course, we will wrap it up on the and a half over at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. So make sure you're supporting us over there, and you're getting that bonus content. I got some extra bonus content coming over there as well. So I'll get to that in a little bit. I'll share it with the junkie supporters first. The junkie supporters? No, the Roadshow supporters. I'm trailing off. I need cold coffee to anchor me here, man. I don't have cold coffee anchor me. It's weird. Hey, listen, it's not the only fight card this weekend, of course. The Bellator 268 is happening this weekend as well, and it's happening the same day. So they're going head-to-head on Saturday. Although I think once again we'll be in a situation where, and I like this. I wish they were going on different days, if I'm being perfectly honest with you, so I could catch the full cards of both. But that's me. I'm greedy like that. I'd like to have kind of one fight card a night. But at least I believe the main card will be off the air for the UFC before the main card starts at Bellator 268. So we'll get to see it. So I think if you want to watch it all live, you watch the whole UFC, then you watch the Bellator main card, and then you go back and catch the prelims on replay. That'll be my plan for it. So, but listen, I've been saying I gotta have my guys on. I gotta have our junkie crew out there on. When I can. So Nolan King is out in Phoenix, Arizona, covering Bellator 268. He'll be leading. He's already been leading our coverage this week. He'll be leading our coverage on Fight Night as well. So I figured, let's get the man Nolan King on. Let's bring him in and get his thoughts on Bellator 268. And so I got him on the phone just a little bit ago. Here's our conversation. All right, so Nolan King joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. More specifically, I think we just got to pull back the curtain a little bit and just say, you're not just in Phoenix, Arizona. You're at the restaurant of MMA royalty, Jose Youngs, who I swear is going to get a job with a major outlet one of these days, man. I have a feeling he's going to get it. You're getting some free food there, maybe? They giving you the hookup?
Oh no, man! You're kidding me? They're charging me extra, now that I got the junkie budget. No, I'm just kidding. It was pretty good. It's a vegan place, Verdura, plant-based eatery. I did not know that it was vegan until I got there and was explained that it was vegan, but had some bunch of stuff. I don't necessarily know what it was, but it tasted good. It's kind of like a ramen type bowl, and it worked out well. Man, maybe I'm going to switch to being vegan.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Nah,
that's not going to happen. That's kind of a dirty move, isn't it, man? Just like bringing you to a restaurant and not saying it's vegan. I understand there's a vegan culture out there, and it's not a bad thing, but that's kind of a shady move, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something just like whatever that name of that other website is that you mentioned earlier. It's just kind of their MO, And we're pulling in, and Jose's telling me how Dana White went there, and Dana White was so surprised that when they got there it was vegan, and that was when I found out it was vegan. So Dana and I had a similar experience.
We all had those similar experiences to Dana White, of course, and we can all relate to kind of what he goes through on a daily basis.
No doubt, man. Yeah, we have similar sized houses, everything. We just kind of, if Dana ever needs to step down, I think we got him.
All right, man. Well, of course, enough vegan talk. We're bringing you on to talk about Bellator 268, of course. Obviously, man, listen, I'm torn on this a little bit, and I want to get your opinion on it because obviously, man, you're as in tune with the Bellator beat as anybody. But I like Grand Prix. I like the tournaments. And I don't want to take away because I think you got some really talented individuals, in the semifinals here. But for whatever reason, and maybe it's just the fact that we lost Anthony Johnson. Maybe it's the fact that Yoel Romero's no longer involved in. I don't know, man. This one to me, it's not grabbing me the same way like the featherweight Grand Prix did. Is it? You're there covering it, so maybe it's a little bit different feel and an unfair question. But does this one sit a little bit different to you for some reason?
Yeah, I think it does. I think you hit it on the head, and maybe that's just Bellator has gotten lucky with those other ones. Like, I'm kind of surprised that something calamity hasn't happened. You think about the featherweight Grand Prix that, just ended. They went through a pandemic. There was all these delays, and nobody got hurt. They still had all the fights. They had the best possible, biggest matchup at the end of it. So I think everything's kind of worked out well, even with the heavyweight division when they had theirs. You had a lot of legends in there, and Fedor ended up making it to the finals. So I think things have gone so well that maybe when something like this happens and somebody like Rumble Johnson, who's kind of the main player, the fighter that people are most excited to see in the tournament, pull out. You had Yoel Romero, who was supposed to be in the tournament initially. He had to pull out. So I think part of it is just the idea of like what we had versus what we ended up with. It's kind of an empty feeling of emptiness there. And then also just kind of the way that this tournament is, it's kind of odd, right? Because you have those older fighters that we've got used to seeing so many times. You've got the Ryan Baders of the world. You had Machida in the first round. And then you also have, obviously the alternate that's stepping in. I think it was the right call. It was the right choice to be the alternate, but Julius Anglickas is not somebody that many people know. So I definitely think it has a bit of a different vibe, and just with all the unfortunate things that's happened with it, I definitely am on board with what you're saying.
Yeah, and I think you nailed it too. It's a little bit out of Bellator's control, right? I mean, with the featherweight grade, I guess that's one of the reasons UFC President Dana White has always said how much he hates the tournaments, because you can't really get the fights necessarily that you want. So I guess some of it's just some bad luck. I don't want to put down Bellator. I think that's the main thing, is like I don't want to make it seem like we're ragging on Bellator or whatever. I mean, I still like what they're doing here, and again, you still have some talent. So let's talk about Angelique stepping in here. As you said, I think it's the right call. I think the press release was awesome, where they said like he's getting the opportunity of a lifetime, and it is right to step in, because you're not only stepping in a Grand Prix, but you're stepping in for a title fight as well. The right call, impressive career record, but does he pose any problems for Vadim Nemkov as you see it?
Yeah, I don't necessarily think so. It's hard to tell again, because Anglikish is a guy he's done so well. He's won all these fights in a row. He won on Dana White's Contender Series. He's looked like a really strong fighter thus far in Bellator. So it's hard for me to necessarily pinpoint exactly how Vadim Nemkov will beat him. But I think Vadim Nemkov is just on such another level that to have such a really good champion that you can kind of make that argument with, like, okay, everybody likes to compare the UFC and Bellator. Bellator's 205-pound champion would be a contender in the UFC. I think most people would agree that would be the minimum line that he would be. Like, he's really, really good. So for Anglikish to not only have to come in here, to be an unknown, to be kind of a bit unproven, but then also to have to fight, a really dominant champion. It's not, he's not stepping in and fighting somebody in the second round that's over the hill. He's fighting the guy in this division. So I think that to loop back actually to your first question, that might be part of the reason that the intrigue's kind of down as well. So, I mean, I don't think that he poses much of a threat. That being said, have we seen somebody be able to hold down, Nemkov in the past? I think that has been something that we've seen in the Phil Davis fight.
Yep.
And I think the Carl Albrechtsen fight, who's the other alternate in Bellator right now. So who knows? I mean, styles make fights, and Anglikish certainly fits the part. If you look at him, he's a massive fighter. He's a massive guy, kind of the perfect build for 205. So I'm intrigued by the fight, but I'm not expecting anything less than an Nemkov win.
Yeah, I hate to say that, but I kind of feel the same about it. I mean, upsets do happen. As you said, there are paths to victory, but I think you're right. I think Nemkov would compete with anybody in the world right now. The opposite side of it, the more recognizable names. And here's one thing I kind of wondered, too, and I was thinking about it, as looking at this card, is that, like, would this event get more attention if Bader Anderson was the main event? I mean, I know you can't do that because the title is on the line. Obviously, you want to have the champion in your main event. But from a markability perspective, I wonder if it would make more sense if Ryan Bader and Corey Anderson were actually the main event instead. I wonder if the casual fan would be a little more drawn to it because they know those names.
Yeah, I think 100%. And I was actually I'd heard that there was maybe some talk of that when these fights were being booked, discussing that. Obviously, Ryan Bader fighting in his backyard here in Arizona for the first time as a major, for a major promotion. He never did it with the UFC. This is kind of his big homecoming, so to speak. And so I was a little surprised that they didn't do that. I do credit Bellator. They kind of sometimes will swim against the tide, so to speak, when it comes to, trying to put the respect of, oh, this guy's a champion, so he automatically goes to top the bill. I think, actually in London, it was funny. They kind of went the opposite way, where Michael Venom Page was actually given the top billing over Douglas Lima, even though their rankings were reversed. So who knows? I mean, Bellator maybe is moving towards maybe starting to do things that might look, be better for promotion. But I think overall, as a whole, Scott Coker and these guys have always tried to put the champions on the bill with the utmost respect, and I can't discredit them for it. I think we would maybe be complaining if they did the opposite.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Let me be clear with that. I think you're right. I think the champion should hold the headlining slot. I think that's just respecting the belt, respecting the title holder, but it does make me wonder if it would resonate better. What do you think about Bader Anderson? I'm just going to say, I went Corey Anderson on my staff picks, and to be honest with you, I thought I was going against the grain, but I look at the odds, and he's actually a slight favorite. I don't know. I think maybe I was a little bit surprised by that. What's your feelings on this fight? Is Anderson the favorite here?
Yeah, I think I agree with you, John. And actually, it's funny. Sometimes you ask fighters a question about how their fight's going to go, and you might disagree with their analysis, or maybe they'll say something to hype themselves up. But I actually thought Corey's was pretty apt. He was saying, I feel like I'm catching Bader at a good time. Like, he's still a good fighter, but there's certain things that just aren't on his side. Him getting older. He's been taking, in the Nemkov fight, he took a tremendous amount of damage. He looked a little gun shy in the Machida fight a little bit. So I think that they're, age maybe starting to catch up with Ryan Bader. And in terms of the last couple weight cuts, I think have been kind of difficult. He put on a lot of muscle when he was fighting at heavyweight. then to move back down. I think he looked on the scales not particularly great. So I think Corey's really right. I think he's catching Ryan at a good time, and I think that Corey's still, one of the best light heavyweights in the world. Sure, his UFC fight ended in a brutal knockout, but that guy's the title holder now. So I think Anderson is kind of still at that premier elite level, and Bader's still really, really, really good and really tough. I could probably beat most of the light heavyweights in the UFC. But I do favor Anderson in this fight. I think he's just kind of more in his prime right now than Ryan Bader.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I saw it too. I was a little surprised to see. I thought maybe others wouldn't be as quick to fade Bader a little bit, but it looks like that's where the betting line is at as well. So it'll be interesting to see. Of course, Bader, kind of guy that could go in there and definitely prove us all wrong. Give me your take on Benson Henderson and Brent Primus. I mean, obviously, Henderson, another guy that's kind of on his way out, right? I mean, he's talking about the old R word and where the end is out, but maybe thought he should be involved in title fights. And of course, Brent feels like I think he made it pretty clear he's not excited about what Bellator did with the title fight. So talk to you about kind of the emotions and what's on the line here.
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? It's kind of opposites of media day. You got Brent Primus, who just, I think every fight, I like the guy. I love his honesty. I like he always is. He's never gonna hold something back. He's kind of wears his sleeve, his heart on his sleeve, so to speak. But yeah, he was fired up. Angry as always about something to do with Bellator, and he was not happy about the implementation of the lightweight or the vacation and then implementation of the lightweight title in the fight between Tricky Pitbull and Peter Queally that's coming up here. He was all sorts of fired up, and then you had Benson Henderson on the other side, who looks like the guy who's done it. He's done it a lot, but he looks like he's done it a bazillion times. He's just standing there. It's like kind of just going through the motions of media day. You wouldn't be able to tell that guy's going to get in a fist fight in front of, thousands of people in a couple of days. So very much opposites coming into media day. It's interesting you bring up Benson Henderson and the R word, as you said, the retirement word. It's hard, I think, sometimes for me to tell how much he's motivated at this point in his career.
Yeah.
But I think with the belt being back, where it's the division's going to have movement again, I think that's going to maybe light a fire under him a little bit. That was kind of maybe the thing that was missing. And he'd love to add that to his legacy. So I'm interested in this fight. It's quite possible that the winner could go on and get a title shot, against the winner of Queally versus Pitbull, depending on how that played out. But it's fun, man. I think it's a good supporting fight for this card, and a bit of a homecoming for Benson Henderson as well.
Yeah, no, I like it, and it looks like just about a pick 'em according to the odds makers, so a good fight there. And like you said, I think the winner's right there in line for a title shot, and name value, especially with Benson Henderson, man. I'm sure Bellator would like to capitalize on that. Any other fights that are standing out to you? I mean, this is a preliminary card that Bellator has done a lot better, right? It's not just local ticket sellers anymore. I mean, there's actual up and coming contenders and people that they're going to bank on their undercards, which didn't used to be the case for years and years. So, any names that you've got circled that you're looking forward to seeing in action?
Yeah, I'm interested in seeing Jalen Bates compete. He's still really early on in his career, but it's funny. We always used to say that he had like an AJ McKee type swagger to him. He kind of presents like AJ did when he first came into Bellator. And sure enough, he's got linked up, and he did this camp with Antonio and AJ, and they're going to both be in his corners for this fight. So I think he's somebody. If people have enjoyed seeing AJ McKee fight, he's kind of going to be. He's a ways away from being somebody that's fighting for belts or contendership or anything like that. But if you're somebody that likes to watch the journey, I think he's somebody that you should definitely keep circled. And then on the women's side, similar prospect, similar stage in her career. Sumiko Anaba is a fighter from Hawaii. She had a very good amateur build and finally turned pro, and she's 2-0. Very, very fun personality, very bubbly at media day. She's somebody I think, again, early on, but if you like watching those prospects, which, I do, that would be a good one. And I'll throw one more at you, John. I know I'm maybe overextending my stay here, but the fight, Jaleel Willis is on the undercard, and that fight I think will be really good too. If you just look at the records on paper, it's 15-2 versus 14-1 or something like that. That would be one second fight of the night, I think, to kind of kick things off.
No, I completely agree. And certainly not overstaying your welcome. Let me ask you one more. Maria Henderson. Do we know what to expect out of Maria Henderson, and what's this fight week experience like for that couple?
Yeah, she was really calm. I think it was funny. Like Benson obviously played it off, like, it's just another fight week, like he always does. And she was kind of the same way. There was very similar vibes coming for both of them, despite their experience levels being so vastly different. So I think it's kind of a fun thing. Seemed like there was something that the Hendersons actually kind of proposed to Bellator, and Bellator said, sure. We haven't done amateur fights for a few years. They used to do them from time to time, but sure, like this one's cool. We dig it. So she's hoping that Bellator, keeps her on, and maybe when she turns pro, she'll keep competing for them. But she looked good in LFA. I was on coverage duty that night for the card that she fought a few months ago, and I think she's 29, so she's kind of a little later starting than maybe some fighters. But I'll be interested. She's certainly got a good training partner and a good guide in life to help her if she wants to find success in MMA.
I was going to say, do you know if she plans on, making this an extended run, or is this more just like the novelty of being able to fight with her husband and having this experience?
I think it's kind of a combination of both. I think, she's taking it seriously for where it is now and kind of seeing where it gets her. She's a mom too, but she's somebody that I believe she had done jiu-jitsu and stuff before she even met Benson. Like, that was kind of her world. And then when she met Benson through the jiu-jitsu scene, then she started thinking about MMA and ultimately decided to pursue it. So I think it's kind of a combination of both, kind of testing the waters, but this could be the type of opportunity that makes her go all in. If Bellator is interested in having her fight for them and having the build from them, I think it'll be interesting. I think the only issue is the weight classes. She's a straw weight, so she would either have to bulk up or maybe she's not a big person. So maybe if Bellator, added an atom weight division, she could compete there. So I think the weight class is just going to be the issue.
Interesting. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about that. Adding an atom weight division might not be a bad idea for them. They kind of built out the featherweight division before the UFC started snatching everybody up, and if they were the first ones to jump on an atom weight division, maybe they could have similar success in kind of locking talent up.
No doubt, and it's funny. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if either Bellator or the UFC does that in the next year or so. I think both promoters, both Coker and Dana White, I think everybody, John, we know this better than anyone. Like, probably, I don't know, twice a year, each promoter will be asked by somebody about, did you ever think about adding an atom weight division? And usually the answers are always the same, like, no, we're happy with it. And I think the last time Dana was asked about it, he kind of said something about, it's something that they're probably going to do down the line.
Yep.
It was kind of a pivot. So that changed to me after him repeating the same thing over and over again. Makes me think it might actually happen. And I think that I asked Coker about it around that same time, and he kind of gave a similar vibe. So maybe there's, one of them sensing that the other might add it, and maybe it's a little bit of a race. So I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if we see one of the two promotions add that in the near future.
Be interesting to see who pulls the trigger first, because like I said, then you can start stocking them. As I said, let's be honest, Bellator's featherweight division is better than the UFC's featherweight division. Obviously you don't have, the one name at the top, obviously, but as a whole, I think the women's featherweight division is better in Bellator. It's just got more depth.
Yeah, no doubt. It's got obviously Chris Cyborg at the top, and then it's got contenders. It's kind of it's nice to. And sure, even if you look at Bellator's, it's not, dripping maybe with the talent of other divisions, but it's nice to kind of have some divisional flow and just be functioning, And I think if the UFC even snags some of these, the Bellator top contenders or some of the girls in PFL, like, to me, I think it makes a big difference when you at least can say you have a top 10, and make this division and that belt seem like something. So I think Bellator has certainly got the UFC's number in that department, like you said.
Yeah. Well, last thing I'll ask you is, I guess whether it be the media or whether it be maybe Bellator staff walking around puffing out their chest, is the feeling on the ground there that Phoenix has the better card than Las Vegas does this weekend?
I think so, for sure. And it's funny. It might just be that the UFC's running more shows now, but I felt like right at the start of this pandemic, when I first started going to Mohegan, it was always like the UFC, edged it out. They'd have a better one. And recently, both with the San Jose card, the Phil Davis Romero, and this one, I think that Bellator is pretty confident that they have the better card. And it's honestly kind of hard to argue. It's no offense to the fighters on the UFC card, but I think both in name recognition and in skills, I think Bellator, if you were to compare the main cards for this weekend, it's really, really, really tough not to lean in their direction. I think Bellator knows it, and there's a lot of people that work hard at Bellator, and I think they kind of take pride in the rare moments. I think they're realistic. They understand what kind of machine the UFC is and how much the public interest is there with just the name UFC being on something. So when they have an opportunity like this, I think everybody kind of that works for the promotion hopes that things go well and they can capitalize on the night that people are watching them maybe over their competitor.
Yeah, no, I have to admit it, even though I'll be obviously tied in with the UFC coverage, I got to say, if you're looking at top to bottom, I guess maybe sometimes Bellator, there's a couple of 1-0 fighters or whatever, so if you're to pick at those. But, yeah, in terms of the name recognition and obviously a title on the line and Grand Prix and former UFC champ Benson Henderson in there, they at least certainly have a compelling argument to make this week. So, anyway, listen, man, Nolan, I've taken enough of your time. I want to let you get back to that vegan food, man. I hate to peel you away away from that, man. And I would just recommend to you, if Jose Youngs tries to take you to a bar tonight, you might want to be a little careful. You might be drinking non-alcoholic beer before you know.
Oof. No, they can't fool me on that. They can fool me on the ramen, the synthetic eggs or whatever I just ate, but this one, not as much. The beer, not going to happen, man. You don't have to worry about that.
I love it. All right. Well, like I said, we'll have full coverage of both cards, but Nolan will be heading things up into Phoenix. So if you want to check out that coverage this weekend, of course, all things Bellator 268, make sure and follow man Nolan King. Nolan, I appreciate the time, brother.
Appreciate it, John.
All right, shout out to Nolan King for that, man. Appreciate his expertise. I mean, honestly, kind of by chance, but he really is as dialed in on Bellator as you're going to get right now of any reporter out there. I mean, because he was up in that Northeast area, living in Boston, he went to all those Fight Sphere events, and because of that, similar to the way myself and Cole Coffey had just been, going to every damn UFC event because we're here in Vegas, he was kind of doing the same thing up there. Although I drive 15 minutes from my house, I think he had to drive about 2 hours, but still, man, really got dialed into that Bellator beat, and as it worked out, just made sense for him to go to Phoenix this week as well. So, man, if you're looking for Bellator knowledge, if that's your jam, and you're looking for something, some deep intel, I would highly recommend reaching out to that guy, man, because he truly is as dialed in on the Bellator beat as anybody out there in the marketplace these days. So, thanks to him for his time. So, listen, dual event week. Again, I think it's funny because I think Bellator probably is the sexier card. If I'm being honest, I mean, my attention, of course, will be on the UFC because that's what I'm covering. But if I'm just equally looking at both, I mean, that main card from Bellator might be the sexier card, so to speak. So, I know they don't always get to have that bragging rights, but I'd probably give it to them this week. It should be it should be a good show. And of course, like I said, you got a title on the line. You got the Grand Prix. We're gonna get some answers about where Ryan Bader stands. Corey Anderson, all these things. So we'll get our final set up for the Grand Prix. I think it's a big one. And Benson in there as well. Where does he stand for the remainder of his career? So looking forward to it, man. It's a busy weekend. So hey, like I said, before we do another episode next week, we will have Dana White's Contender Series 44. I touched on it, but Solomon Renfro in there against Johnny Parsons. Again, I'm not biased. I'm just a reporter. I'm doing my job. I'll call it down the middle, but I get excited when I see CFFC vets on the card, and this is another one headlining. I mean, that's 2 in a row where the main event is featured a CFFC fighter, Cage Fury Fighting Championships. Just saying, just throwing it out there. Oh, sorry. We got a show coming at the end of the month, too, so I'm looking forward to that. But anyway, listen, I'll just say, like I said to start the show, man, sorry Cole Coffey couldn't be here this week, but it's kind of an emotional week for him. So like I said, if you're in touch with them and would like to give him any notes of support, man, I'm certainly sure he would appreciate it. I don't know if he'll get back to it right away. I think he may be drowning his sorrows in a frosty beverage or two. But I know it's a tough one for him. So we'll send our feelings out there for him on this kind of 1 year mark of a very down, bad time for him, and hopefully he doesn't have to go through that much pain again. So shout out to our man Cole Coffey. We won't end it on too sad of a note, but we'll just send the love there. I'm gonna pack up and head to my kids' soccer practice, and then everybody wish me luck that I don't completely screw things up in the morning with the streaming situation, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous. So wish me luck too. And in the meantime, thanks for listening. We'll be right back.